Hello, I see that we're recording, so it's the Parsha of Pinchas and the Alshich's insights here. Very, very important, very, very deep. Before we begin the share, let me tell you this week's share is dedicated to the memory of Isser ben Yosef. I say Bar Yosef. Isser ben Yosef. His neshama should have an aliyah from the share, and his children should be a source of nachas to Shamayim. If you want to have the share, the Alshich, the weekly Alshich share, sponsored in the name of one of your loved ones, can I remind you again that if you just email me to yy at rabbiyyy.com, yy@rabbiyyy.com, and I'll be more than honored to dedicate the share in the memory of the name that you are sponsoring. And as it's just today, after the fast, we've now entered the 3 weeks. Can I just remind you again that at the same address, if you're interested in doing some serious addressing the issue of making this the last sad Tisha B'Av in Klal Yisrael's history, this book, Building Tomorrow, Sinas Chinam, how it starts, how it spreads, and how to get rid of it for good. It is 13 of the greats of all time addressing the topic of the flaw within the Jewish people that got us here in the first place, and a new translation at the back of the Chofetz Chaim's favorite and famous small sefer Ahavas Yisrael, how to deal with other Jews, and a new translation of the first chapter of Talmud Devorah, which again addresses your interaction with other Jews. So Building Tomorrow, with a nice modern Israeli Yerushalayim skyline with a Beis Hamikdash where it should be, and hopefully will play our part in bringing it to exactly that happy day. Okay, now we come to Parshas Pinchas, and I suppose it's important for me to share the screen. So let's just do that to get us off and running. Of course, if you've got your own chumash there, then that would be make it perhaps easier for you to see. I hope this is going to be easy for you to see. There it is, Parshas Pinchas with this across. I hope that is all clear. And it says, so let's just read over there. V'yidaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. And Hashem speaks to Moshe to say, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas was the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen. He removed my anger from the Jewish people, when he was jealous or zealous, is a real translation, for my sake, amongst them. And I did not destroy the Jewish people in my zealousy, says Hashem. And therefore I'm going to give them a bris shalom, a special reward. And the special reward that Pinchas, of course, is given, as Rashi says, is that he's given immortality. The Alshich, when he's commenting on this, of course, asks lots and lots of questions on the wording of the psukim. I'm only going to point to two of the points that he makes, and that is, it says V'yidaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, to say what? Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, the Alshich says, as Rashi points out too, well, we know that. We know his yichus, we know his status, and where he came from before. Why does it have to repeat it again here? And again, the Alshich wants to know, what's this bris shalom, this reward, this special reward that he gets? Those are really, the Alshich, quickly glancing here, asks 14 questions on these psukim, but we're only going to look at those 3. Okay, so if you've got your own chumash, then you can glance in, but I think I'm going to stop the share now. I'm going to come back because we're going to be looking at another pasuk to solve our problems or answer our questions very shortly. Okay, so that's the questions that he asks. And again, let me remind you of the first one, lemor, to say who? Lemor to say what? The Alshich says this is very, very nicely answered by Rashi. And Rashi says that at that time, at that specific time, when Pinchas did what he did, then, and achieved what he achieved, which of course was the cessation of a plague, which had already destroyed 24,000 Jewish lives. When he acts to destroy or kill Zimri and his non-Jewish wife, or girlfriend, whatever the phrase would be, then that stopped a plague that killed 24,000 lives. Despite that fact, astonishingly, as Rashi says, the heads of the tribes turned around and said, Ben Putiza. Ben Puti. Puti is, Rashi says, because his grandfather, that was no less than Yisro, Moshe Rabbeinu's father-in-law, he was the one who fattened, or once upon a time, fattened cows to avoid a Zorah. And therefore, with that background, with that yichus, how could he possibly have done this with the right motives, with the right intentions? In order that people shouldn't think that, Hashem speaks. V'yidaber Hashem al Moshe, Hashem speaks to Moshe, Lemor, to say in my name. Who is Pinchas? Don't you trace his background and therefore the source of his motivation back to the non-Jewish side of the story, where you could have doubts and be skeptical. Rather, he's Ben Elazar, Ben Aaron HaKohen. Focus on the positive side of the family, the Jewish side of the family, of course, both the Jewish sides of the family, but without that question or cynicism allowed to creep in. He comes from Aaron. His motivation is complete and pure. That's what you've got to say. But again, the other question which we asked is, why did it say he moved my anger from Bnei Yisrael? But I'll come back to that shortly. But I do want to read to you what the Alshich says inside, and that will take us into a very deep journey. Here is the Alshich here. These two questions that we asked, the first two questions we asked. You're talking as a general rule, you should be aware, says the Alshich, there are many, many benefits that a person gets and gains for him or herself when they do a mitzvah. And that's attested to in the fact, or the wording of a bracha which we make before we carry out a mitzvah. There's a hint in the bracha as to what we're about to do has got the potential to achieve. So let me read on. Apart from the merits you get from doing the mitzvah, but your very being, that's both your physical being and your spiritual being, is transformed and elevated and changed as a consequence of you doing this mitzvah. And he says, Nasas Bria Chodasha. In a very real sense, by doing a mitzvah, you become new, renewed, a new person. Because of the spirit, the force, the energy that's created by the doing of the mitzvah. That's why the Sanhedrin decreed that before you do a mitzvah, you use a unique, or a specific rather, form of words. You've made me holy by doing this mitzvah. By doing the mitzvah you've asked me to do, I've now added to myself, I've now elevated myself, I become Kodesh, Asher Kiddushana, who made me holy by doing this mitzvah. By performing Hashem's mitzvahs, become holy and become more tohor, elevated. And then he says a very interesting thing. Hashem therefore gives us 613 mitzvahs, as the Talmud says, in order to maximize our opportunities to grow and to change, metamorphosize into something holy. That's why, that's why the mitzvahs, the 613 mitzvahs, are split into two categories: 365 sinews, 248 bones. The skeleton, the thing that a Jew is built on, is 248 Reish Mem Ches. Reish Mem Ches. So what does that hint at? So then we go back to our friend Pinchas. Laman Behem, sorry, I shouldn't really call him our friend Pinchas. To Pinchas. Laman Behem Yigdal B'Yikadish Gam HaChlina. When you do a mitzvah, not only you're elevating the spiritual, but the physical as well. The Gemaimar HaKosov, the Pasuk says, Al Matzenu, Gemaimar Rabbeinu, Bezeh Nove Al Bir Mikra Shekosov Lamala, V'yar Pinchas Ben Elazar V'yikach Romach B'Yodai. That's why I said I had to share the screen with you again. So let's do a bit of screen sharing. And do that. And I think that gets us there. And then I do this. Oops, it jumped back. It would come. That's a bit horrible. I hope you can still see that. No, sorry, that's the wrong one. So we'll leave that. We'll come back to that in a second. This is the bit when Pinchas does what Pinchas do. I didn't put it up on the screen, so I have to read that bit to you instead. What did Pinchas do at the end of Parshas Balak? So it says, V'yar Pinchas saw Ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen. Oh, that's where it says he's been ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen. But it says it again at the beginning of our Sedra. Vayar Pinchas. It doesn't say what he saw. Vayikach Ramach b'yodei, and he takes the Ramach, the spear, in his hand. The Alshich says the word Ramach is spelled without a vav. It should be Resh Vav Mem Ches. But the vav, the Torah here removes the vav to return the word Ramach into Resh Mem Ches. Ramach. There are certain mitzvahs a Jew can do. Instead of elevating you by just one increment, he takes his whole self here when he does what he does. He elevates every single aspect of him. Indeed, he becomes a new person. As we know, Pinchas becomes Eliyahu Hanovi. And the Bris Shalom that he's given, that we'll talk about shortly, is that he attains immortality. He never dies as a result of what he did. But let me come back to the Alshich and read to you what we're saying. When it says he took his Ramach b'yodei, yes, indeed, he did literally take a spear in his hand, but there was another echo going on there, another hint at something else that was going on and happening simultaneously. He was going to elevate his whole self. That's the Ramach Ivorov, the whole 248 parts of his body. He would also purify and make holy the physical side of him. That's why Pinchas becomes Eliyahu Novi, who goes to heaven alive. How can he take something physical into a spiritual place? Because it's physical that becomes spiritual by what he did here. And he says, came Rabbi say, he takes the spear, he took himself. And then the Alshich wants to address the fact that it says, and he saw. What did he see? So here he says something very important. I've got to remind you of a story that we're all familiar with, the making of the golden calf. We all know that the Jewish people came and demanded of Aaron that he made a golden calf. But prior to that, they'd come to Shiur, Miriam's son, and demanded that he make the golden calf, and he refused, and they killed him. Then they come to Aaron, and Aaron says, okay, I'll do it, but we'll have a festival tomorrow. He's stalling, he's waiting, he's hoping that Moshe will come back. He refuses to refuse. Why not? If some of them was simple, whatever simple means, used as an adjective with regards to the noun Jew, if even the simplest of Jews have been willing through the ages to give up their lives in order not to compromise their belief and their faith, it would be very hard to imagine that Aaron Cohen would want to die al Kiddush Hashem too. So why did he do this? And the answer is very simple. Aaron knows they've killed Shiur. It's going to be extraordinarily difficult. It was extraordinarily difficult. In fact, it's only by a thread that Moshe got us off being completely destroyed. But if he refuses and they kill him too, there will be no way back. So the precedent is set by Shiur. If they kill somebody who's a great tzaddik, like the Prophet Zechariah, there is strong possibilities that the repercussions and the ramifications of Klal Yisrael could be of the most dire. Therefore, listen to what he says about Pinchas. Wahu, B'Shem Lev, El Omra V'Yar. We didn't say V'Yar Pinchas when it said before. It said V'Yar Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen. What he saw was that the fact he was ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen. So he says, Hine, L'chor, you're talking the Yamar Ki. He Pinchas, he Choishesh ben Yikrenek Chur. Pinchas was scared at this moment. Perhaps what would happen now is that if he kills these people, then they will kill him. Not with the exact same outcome as happened to Shiur. In killing a tzaddik, the repercussions of the Jewish people could be much worse. Because they killed him at Shiur at the Meister of the Eagle. And even it's the case that it wouldn't affect him detrimentally by dying on Kiddush Hashem, but what with them? But that will make the accusation and the crime committed by the Jewish people much worse than it is at the moment. Because, of course, the Jewish men had got involved with the sexual immorality, seduced by the woman of Midian. That's bad enough. And indeed, Shifkas Damim, there was death. But what if they killed somebody like him? Maybe there won't be any way out of this. But that's why it says over there, what did he say? It doesn't say it, it does. He saw he was Pinchas. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen. He had zechus omish. He had merits through his fathers and through his father. And he takes Ramach. Ramach, incidentally, is also the gematria of Avram, the numerical value of Avram. He took his connection to Avram as well, who was willing to die al Kiddush Hashem, and hoping that that in combination with the fact that what he was doing was 100% L'Shem Shemaim would be sufficient to allow him to save the Jewish people, stop the plague, and not by his action invite them to kill him, which will mean that they would be finished. That's what it means. So says the Alshich. Very interesting. But there's something more. And for that, we do need to go back to what I tried to show you in the screen share just a second ago. So if I pull that up again, there. What happened there? Now, there's another incredibly important message here. But and again, you have to look through the Alshich's eyes to see it very clearly. It all depends on a clear analysis of the Hebrew. Remember, I keep coming back to the same point. God's good at Hebrew. There are no mistakes. And therefore, the way that he wrote these words is telling you the story, the real story, but you have to look deep to see it. Read it with me. Vayeshev Yisrael b'Shittim. The Jewish people dwell in a place called Shittim. Shittim, incidentally, was the place where the Jewish people invaded the land of Israel and conquered it under Yeshua, the launch pad for the conquest of the land of Israel. V'yochel ha'am liznais el b'nais Moav. And the people begin to do znus, to engage in sexual immorality with the woman of Moab. But the Jewish people start to worship the gods of the woman who seduced them. And the people ate and bowed down to their gods. Now, what's God's reaction to this? I'll pause. Have a look at those words. What's God's reaction? Again, and the people begin to engage in sexual corruption with the daughters of Moab. Hashem's reaction? Zero. He offers sacrifices to their gods. Hashem's reaction? Zero. And the people bow down to their gods. Hashem's reaction? Zero. Next bit. The Yitzhak Yisrael Baal Pa'ar. And when Yisrael get involved in Baal Pa'ar, with that particularly bizarre type of idolatry, in which they excrete in front of the idol, Vayichar af Hashem, and Hashem is furious with Yisrael. The Alshich says here something incredibly interesting. It is all based on a careful analysis of the Pasuk. Jews are referred to in these two psukim by two names, Yisrael and Am, the people. The Am is a reference to the ordinary people, what's called in Hebrew the Hamanam, the simple folk. Let's do it again. Vayeshev Yisrael b'Shittim, the Jewish people as a whole settle there. Vayochel ha'am, but the people, or the simple people, get involved with the sexual immorality of the daughters of Moab. Hashem's reaction? Nothing. But now they start to sacrifice to their gods. Nothing. And then they eat. V'yochel ha'am, again the am, 3 times the am. Again, no reaction, because they are the ordinary people who don't know better. But by the next pasuk, Yisrael Baal Pa'ar, but Yisrael, that means the better Jews, the ones who are learned, the ones who know better and could know better. When they get involved in that stuff, Hashem's furious. That's why it says at the beginning of Pinchas, Hashem says, tell them, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron Cohen, al b'nei Yisrael. It says the Alshich, he removed my anger from the Bnei Yisrael, not from the ordinary people. I wasn't too angry with them. I understand that a simple person who doesn't know any better makes mistakes. But I am particular with the people who are great, who could make a difference and should make a difference, who know not to do stuff when they get things wrong. And these people, as Rashi points out and Alshich quotes, are belittling Pinchas. Ben Puti Zeh, grandfather Yisrael. It's you he saved. He saved you, the Bnei Yisrael, the heads of the tribe who got involved in this. You're the ones that he saved. There's an irony there. There's another important point here, and that stays with this same principle. Hashem is always angry with the people who should know better and do know better. In Lamed Aleph, if we go to the Seder of Matos, Matos is, of course, extraordinarily sad, because Matos is when Moshe Rabbeinu is going to die. He knows that. They've got one more job to do, which is fight a war against the Midianites. Hashem says, go and fight a war of vengeance, avenge the death of the 24,000 Jews that they seduced and caused the plague that killed them. But Moshe knows that, because Hashem says, after this you're going to die. Moshe knows that. And so he knows that if he tells the Jewish people they've got to complete this war, and as soon as they do, he's going to die, they won't go and fight. They don't want to lose Moshe. So he changes it and famously says, go and fight a war of revenge for the sake of Hashem. He hides the fact, he camouflages the fact that his death is predicated on this action. But anyway, that's exactly what happens, and they're supposed to wipe them out completely. And you remember that they don't achieve this. In fact, they keep the woman alive. And Moshe is very angry. So what happens is, in Posuk 13 in Lamed Aleph, Moshe has already selected an army. Out they go to fight. The gates of Moshe and Elazar come, and Moshe and Elazar the Kohen Gadol come out to greet the army. They go outside the encampment. Vayitzav Moshe el Pekudi Echol, and Moshe is furious with the Pekudi Echol. The Pekudi Echol is the officers in charge, the generals in charge of the Jewish people. El Pekudi Echol, Rashi says an astonishing thing. He says, Memonim alachal, the ones who are in charge, Lalamdecha, to teach you, should call Seruchan Ador Tola Begedoinim, that the offense of every generation depends on the big ones, the big guys, the generals, the leaders, Sheyesh Koich B'Yadam Nimchas, who have the ability to intervene. When the incident happened before, the incident that caused Pinchas to get his spear and kill Zimri, the head of the tribe of Shimon, and his partner, when that happens, then that is something that a little Jew does. What about the rest of them? That's why Hashem is furious with them. Why don't you do anything? There is a complaint to the greats who could and should do more. The same idea, incidentally, I once heard from Ramatas Solomon in the name of the Brisker Rov. We all know the story of Yonah, and Yonah is trying to escape what Hashem wants him to do when he's to go to the town of Nineveh and get them to do teshuvah. He doesn't want that to happen because if they do teshuvah easily, it will look bad and reflect badly on the Jewish people, because we struggle sometimes to do a teshuvah, which apparently the city of Nineveh and its inhabitants didn't struggle to do. So it will look bad for us. Anyway, everybody knows the story of Yonah, and the ship is being thrown about. There's a localized weather pattern, a storm which only affects that ship. It's all calm seas round about it. And suddenly, miraculously, there's this little area of about, 1,000 square yards, a ship going up and down in the storm. Everybody gets up and everybody prays. And of course, if you remember the story, they find Yonah who is not praying. They said, "Are you crazy? Pray to your gods." Of course, in Yonah's case, it's to one God. And he says, "There's no point. I know exactly what it's all about. It's all about me. It's not you." So they throw him overboard, and we all know the story that happens from there. But the Brisker Rov said, suppose you didn't know the story, and suppose we have some sort of telescope or time machine which allows us to look into the past, and we see all these sailors on a boat in the middle of a storm, and we know Hashem controls the weather. And I was to say to you, who do you think Hashem's angry with? Look at these non-Jewish sailors over there worshipping their idols. Is that causing Hashem's anger and therefore the storm? Or look at that frum Jew over there with the shtreimel, the long payas and the beard, shocking to Hashem. Or is it him? And you would say, that's them. No. It's not. It's the frum Jew, the Jew who should know better and could know better. So let's finish off by looking at the Alshich when he asked that third of our three questions from this week's parsha. Why is Pinchas given exclusively a bris shalom? He gets immortality for saving the Jewish people. After all, this is something which Moshe and Aaron have done many, many times. So in my more general presentations, I usually recall there was a publication, maybe it still exists, called the Reader's Digest. I don't know if you ever came across that when I went to learn Yesod Yeshiva. It was common to find this in Jewish homes. I don't think anymore. But anyway, we got this for a year as well. But I found I cancelled the subscription, much to the shock and horror of the publishers, who continually wrote to me, I think, for the next 10 years, asking if I was serious and maybe I wanted to reconsider and do teshuva. I'm surely was engaged in questioning the wisdom of my actions. It was beyond them that anybody would cancel the Reader's Digest. The reason I cancelled it was because it was so repetitive. Same formula all the time, which obviously worked for them. One of the features in the Reader's Digest was drama in real life. There's always a story of somebody who's about to be killed, and at the last minute he's saved or she's saved. They often dab into Hashem, by the way, which seems to be part of the formula. Well, it is. But leaving that aside, I want you to imagine there is a plane flying American Airlines, let's say, from JFK to SFO, San Francisco, and it's Delta. I'm a frequent flyer in Delta, and 2 hours outside, one of the pilots has a massive heart attack and dies at the controls. And then the co-pilot, by statistical impossibility, that's why they have 2 pilots, also has a massive heart attack and also dies. The chief stewardess rushes into the cabin and shouts, "Both pilots have died. Can anybody here fly the plane?" In row 14A, a gentleman of about 65 stands up and says, "Well, as a matter of fact, ma'am, I used to fly these until 2 years ago when I retired." And he moves the bodies of the 2 pilots to the side, and he executes a perfect landing at San Francisco Airport. Would this make it into drama in real life? I think not. But imagine the exact same scenario: the plane flying to San Francisco 2 hours outside, pilot number 1 has a heart attack and dies, pilot number 2 has a heart attack and dies, and the stewardess rushes in and says, "Can anybody here fly the plane? Both pilots have died." And in row 16B, a Boy Scout jumps up and says, "I've read about this in my comic books. I think with instructions from the tower, I could do it." And so he goes to the front, and he puts on the headphones, and they tell him what to do, and he executes a rather bumpy but successful landing. Would that make it into real life? I think so. The point is that Moshe and Aaron are the pilot and the co-pilot. Indeed, they saved Klal Yisrael many, many times in the past. But that's their job. The fact that Pinchas, who is not a great yet, who's willing to yikach romach, to take his whole self and dedicate himself for the Jewish people, stop a plague which has already killed 24,000 Jews. That's like the little guy, like the Boy Scout. He gets a special reward for that, having made himself completely great, as a completely great person, somebody who's been metaher, who's purified his physical self, not just the spiritual self. He goes straight to heaven. That's why I said to Adam Hashem Moshe, say this to them: these people, the Bnei Yisrael, the great people who I expected more of and failed me, that little person didn't. When I was preparing this, I was struggling whether or not to say this. I've got an organization which I've started called the Ner Tamid Initiative. And Ner Tamid Initiative is there to support Bali Tshuva across the generations, from the first generation in the 1970s up to today, and to help them with the issues that are unique to Bali Tshuva, who have joined the Frum community. Bali Tshuva, Gerim, the whole, all those people who started late. You can see the Facebook page, or if you go to www.ner_tamid.com, you'll see Rabbi Akiva Tatz, and Dr. Losky, Rabbi Tzipora Heller, and various others. And today, it was one of my great heroes, a remarkable man, Rabbi David Refson. Rabbi Refson, I wanted him to speak about, in particular, the challenges faced by male Bali Tshuva. And he wanted, you can see this incidentally on my Facebook page, he wanted Bali Tshuva to be very pragmatic and realize that for many, they won't be able to catch up fully because they're starting from a late base. There's no reason at all, he said, and there should be no, in any way, finger pointing, as is pointed at Pinchas, to say, "Oh yes, all they've done is become professionals, etc." No, that's absolutely fabulous. And he said, but when it has to be pragmatic and realistic, how can somebody who's starting so late achieve such greatness? I didn't want to jump in and challenge, but thinking over, well, Moshe Rabbeinu brought the Torah Shebiksav and the Torah Shebal Peh, but Moshe Rabbeinu really is talked about in the Talmud as being the bringer of the Torah Shebiksav. The bringer of the Torah Shabbat Peh to the Jewish people, the personification was Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva started when he was 40. Pinchas was a little Jew, but that little Jew can make all the difference. It's sometimes a surprise, as I said before, or an inappropriate thing to stick the adjective little next to the noun Jew. In my experience, no Jew is really a little Jew. I agree, of course, with Rabbi Resson in almost everything. And indeed, for a lot of people, don't set your sights too high. But that doesn't in any way deny the possibility that every generation there's a Pinchas or many Pinchases will come along and surprise us all, that from a background where they don't have, or we wouldn't have the expectation of them achieving great things, achieve great things for themselves, retire themselves, and go on to achieve enormously great things for the Jewish people too. I would like to thank you again for joining me at our Alshich Shiur. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm enjoying very much giving it. And I'll see you next week. Again, let me remind you, if you'd like to dedicate the Shiur, send me an email here to yy@rabbiyyby.com, or if you'd like a signed copy of Building Tomorrow, seeing the scheme, how it starts, how it spreads, and how to go for good, you can get one of those sent to you in the mail through simply contact me at the same address. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Stay safe, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Good Shabbos.